Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. What happens when you smash together a figure of pure, raw physical power with one of the most radical philosophers ever? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We are taking the biblical Samson and completely reimagining him, not just as a warrior, but as a bridge to a whole new kind of human being, an idea that comes straight from Friedrich Nietzsche. So let's just get this out of the way. Forget the Samson you think you know. We're asking a totally different question here. What if his legendary strength, what if it wasn't just about muscles? What if it was philosophical? What if his whole story wasn't about getting power from some god, but about unlocking the incredible potential that's already inside humanity itself? Yeah, let's really get into that. On one hand, you have the classic Samson. You know the guy, a total force of nature, all raw instinct, with his power being granted from somewhere else, from a deity. He's kind of a blunt instrument, right? But this Samson we're exploring today, he's completely different. This one is all about self-mastery. His power comes from within. And because of that, he's not just a man anymore, he becomes a bridge to something way, way bigger. Okay, so I just mentioned a bridge, and that idea? It's not just a throwaway word. It brings us right to our first major concept, something that's absolutely central to Nietzsche's whole way of thinking. And here it is, straight from the man himself. You've got to love this imagery. For Nietzsche, humanity isn't some finished product, you know? We're not at the destination. We're this tightrope stretched over a massive abyss. On one side, you have our animal past, and on the other, this incredible potential he called the Overman, or the Übermensch. That whole journey, it's defined by tension and, yeah, a whole lot of danger. So you're on this rope, staring at an abyss. How in the world do you get across? Well, Nietzsche has an answer for that. He calls it the downgoing. And no, this is not about dying and going to heaven for some big reward. It's actually the exact opposite. It's a profound sacrifice you make for this world. It's about being willing to be the one who falls, to be the groundwork, so that someone greater, a new kind of human, can one day walk right over you. And that right there, that perfectly nails the role of our modern Samson. See, he's not the final destination. He isn't the Overman himself. He is the bridge. He embodies that messy, difficult, in-between state, that whole process of overcoming your old self so a new one can emerge. So how does this transformation actually happen? Nietzsche called it self-overcoming. Think about the original Samson. He had vows, right? But they were just rules slapped on him from the outside, pretty much passive constraints. Our modern Samson, though, he takes those same vows and actively grabs them, melts them down, and reforges them in the fire of his own will. Suddenly, they're not chains anymore. They become his tools he uses to shape his raw animal instinct into something disciplined, something with real purpose and power. All right, so if we're a bridge, a pretty natural question is, what's on the other side? What are we building towards? For Nietzsche, the answer isn't up in the clouds. It's right here, in what he called the meaning of the earth. Now, to even begin to find this meaning, you have to let some things go. Nietzsche called them supra-terrestrial hopes. Basically, it's all the stuff that points away from here and now. You know, promises of a perfect afterlife, the idea that our real purpose is somewhere beyond the stars, or that our power comes from some distant deity. You have to turn your back on all that otherworldly stuff. It's a pretty radical move. So what fills that space once those old hopes are gone? Something so simple, but so powerful. This command: remain faithful to the earth. That's it. It's a call to find every bit of value, every bit of meaning, right here, in this life, in this body, in this reality, not in some promise of what comes next. And this all leads to the biggest job of all, value creation. You've probably heard Nietzsche's famous line, the death of God. Well, after that, there's this huge void where the old absolute values used to live. The Overman doesn't panic. He doesn't despair. He looks at that void and decides to fill it himself. He creates his own meaning by, and I love this phrase, swallowing the lightning. Just taking in the raw, chaotic, beautiful energy of life on Earth and forging it into something meaningful. Okay, this brings us to our final piece of the puzzle. We're going to see how this new kind of philosophical strength is really the ultimate upgrade, the final evolution of Samson's brute force. To explain this, Nietzsche comes up with this wild metaphor. He says the Overman is like having the Roman Caesar with Christ's soul. So think about what that means. You've got the raw, unapologetic, world-conquering power of a Caesar, that Titan-like pride, but it's fused with this deep, refined, value-creating spirit. It's not just about power anymore. It's about taking that raw force and refining it into a creative will with a purpose. And Nietzsche actually maps this whole psychological journey out for us with his 3 metamorphoses. First, you have the camel. The original Sampson was basically a camel, just bearing the heavy weight of all those traditional vows and duties. But then, he transforms into the lion, the one who says no and destroys those old values to create freedom. And finally, as the bridge to the Overman, he shows us the way to the child. The child is a new beginning, someone who can give a joyful, powerful yes to life itself, creating brand new values out of pure creativity and wonder. Okay, that was a pretty intense philosophical ride. So let's land the plane. Why does any of this matter? Why should we care about this idea of the Overman anyway? What's the big takeaway here? Here's what it all boils down to. First, we are not a finished product. We are a bridge to what we could become. Second, real meaning, it isn't found in some afterlife. It's found by being faithful to the earth, right here, right now. Third, true power isn't just brute force. It's instinct that's been sharpened and disciplined by self-mastery. And maybe most importantly, in a world where old beliefs are fading, the greatest challenge and the greatest freedom is that we have to become the creators of our own values. And that brings us to the final and maybe most important question. If the Overman is someone who creates meaning by embracing the raw energy of the world, then this whole idea isn't really about some ancient hero or a long-dead philosopher. It's about you. So I'll leave you with this. What part of your world, what challenge, what passion, what fear are you going to embrace to create your own meaning? What lightning will you swallow?